I want to talk about the intellect. Intellect. Very interesting thing about the intellect. How many of you are intellectual people? And you're proud of it. We are a spirit created in the image of God. And in the scripture it says, take no thought about tomorrow, what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, where you're going to go, or whatever. Take no thought about any of those things. And so I realized there are two different realities. There is one of the intellectual world, and they push the intellect all the time. The moment you pop out of mama's womb, they put a book in front of your face. They tell you got to learn 24 hours a day. I heard this ad on the, maybe radio or TV where Michelle Obama is, she did this ad and she's saying that to the parents, it's summertime, and during the summer, kids tend not to read. You know, they're not in school, they tend not to be doing anything, and that's not good. They need to be reading at all times, pretty much. They need to be reading a book or doing something. And so the intellect is always being pushed nowadays, more so nowadays than it did prior to the last 50 years or so. The first thing people say, I want to go to college. The moment you pop out, they're teaching you and preparing you for the best college. Then they're preparing you for the best job. And the intellect is always on the move, always. And then people praise for that. Oh, that's such a smart person. And that just makes you want to become more intellectual. And I noticed that the people who are really into the intellect are nutcases, absolute nutcases. Because of this intellectual thing taking over and the people rule us, we now have so-called same-sex marriage. That wouldn't happen if we weren't into the intellect. Common sense would dictate that is not going to happen. And common sense wouldn't care what you thought about it, because we would know that that's wrong. And we would have compassion for the people who are locked into the lifestyle, because there are some who would like to overcome it, but they don't know how, and the intellectual person doesn't know how to help them overcome it. Because of the intellect, we now have drag queens running around in the military. Can you imagine jumping down in a foxhole, running from Bin Laden, and then here's a man in there with a dress and lipstick on? It would shock you. You'd rather be out with Bin Laden. But that's the intellectual world around us. The intellectual world tells us that abortion is good. It's okay to kill a baby. And even at the 9th month, if the baby should come out doing a botched abortion, let the baby die on the medical table. Do not give it care. That's the intellectual person. The intellect got us hating each other based on color. They have convinced us that color is a big deal, when color is no big deal at all. It means nothing, absolutely nothing, but people are seriously divided and fighting over the color thing. And when you get over that, you think, wow, how did I ever think that that was important? How did I ever think that enough to be mad at the whites or mad at the blacks or whatever? But that's the intellectual person, and they're controlling us, making us believe that it's real and it's serious and it's important, and it's not. The intellectual person have a thinking that, have men and women fighting. Men and women should not be fighting one another, because it's not about men and women, it's about good versus evil, right versus wrong. And there are men and women who are on the side of good, and there are those who are on the side of evil, and all those who are on the side of good, we are brothers and sisters together. We are one. All those who are on the side of the lie, those are our enemies. We're not brothers and sisters with them, even if they're our blood family. They hate you for it because they serve a different source. And that's why God said he wants us to overcome the intellect. We have to lay that down. It's all ego and it's all destruction. And that doesn't mean you don't learn to read and write and do things, but it should not become that important to you, where you stress behind it, or you put yourself down if you see someone who seems to be smarter, or you live by that. You want to live by the intellect of God. his intellect is greater than that of your father, the devil. And that's why we have to fall away from that. The intellect is like being traumatized as a kid. You know how kids can tell and see things. They are not afraid to speak the truth. But by the time they're 10, they become just like the parents, lying and deceiving. And they are falling away from God's intellect into the intellect of the devil. And now they have to go to college to feel better. We must be born again to get pastors. And that's why we have to let that go, because it's all ego. And I noticed too that all intellectual people are insecure people. They're stressed out, they worry, they fight to hold on to stuff. They need certain types of friends or money or something to make them feel better. But they have the intellect, they're smart, they can read a book. And they can read 10 books in one day. Yes, sir.
Good day, sir. I consider myself an intellectual. However, I have no understanding of that concept.
Of what concept?
Of what intellect is. I guess I've been trained ever since a young to study, and unfortunately, I have very little understanding of that concept, which is why when I went to a psychiatrist a long time ago, they determined that they found out they had a learning problem. I don't understand things in the way everybody else does.
How do you understand things?
It seems like I'm a regular person willing to compromise. I don't know how I can do that.
Oh, okay.
And like Stevie Wonder was saying in his song Superstition, if you believe in things you don't understand, you suffer. And intellect may be one of our newest forms of superstition.
I was thinking of something. I interviewed a man on my TV show this week, and it's coming out in a couple weeks. And this man was born a boy. This is his second interview. And this guy had been watching my show and listening to me on radio, so he contacted me from Colorado. It's funny, he doesn't want to be called he, but that's all I can see is a he. And so I interviewed this guy. He was born a boy, and he said that when he was growing up, he knew he felt different, but there was no words to put to it. Then he went and saw the psychiatrist, and after seeing the psychiatrist, he was convinced that he was a woman. Isn't that something? And so this person convinced him that he was a woman, and he went and had surgery, had all the boy stuff taken off. That's being convinced by the intellectual. Rather than, try to overcome this thing, normally that's what happens. He went and cut off all his body boy part and attached some girl parts onto it. So he flew in from Colorado because he doesn't agree with the way the radical homosexuals are trying to impose, the lifestyle on us. But the point is, had not he listened to the psychiatrist, I guarantee you he would not have had the body parts removed. He would not. He would have been able to hold on to his parts until he can overcome it, because the only reason we have conflict within is that we're separated from God. And in that separation, you have all kind of weird feelings and things going on in your mind and in your body. And so if the psychiatrist come along and say, hey, you are really a woman, and you trust those people, you'll find yourself doing that madness, taking it off. Where in the normal days, they didn't do that kind of stuff. And we got to return to this other state of being. The normal, it is smarter than the world. It really is. It's just that the world are always, they're always out there promoting their stuff. They have access to the media, they live in big homes, they have a lot of money, and so it's tempting to you. And we all know now that temptation is evil, right? And so it's tempting, and that's why God said, resist temptation. Deliver us from evil. Because they can convince you with all the glamour, look like they're having fun. They're really not, folks. It's a setup. And that's why we have to learn to be in it, but not of it. Yes, sir.
One of the interesting things about intellectuals that I've noticed is that they tend to be very emotional.
Right.
There is a sense that to be intellectual, you're rational, that you have a a temperament that is steady. And I've seen everything but that. The way you see it is when their thought process is attacked, they will respond and retaliate with extreme emotion. Very different from the kind of thing you would expect of a calm, reasoned approach that intellectuals tend to think about, or tend to characterize themselves as having. And that's the part, and so therefore, what I said before, the intellectual lives in a world of doubt. When you finally open up the fact that they are doubting, then they can't stand it and they start attacking you.
Yeah,
That's what I've noticed.
Absolutely. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I love fighting with the intellectuals now. It is so nice because they don't have a foundation to stand on. The children of God have the foundation to stand on, and that foundation is His love. Is God love working through us. They have no love, they have no foundation. And all they have is intimidation. If they can't intimidate you, they absolutely have nothing. Really, really don't. If you just pay attention, you will see that they're very insecure because their father is weak. Their father, Satan, is a deceiver. And he has no foundation. That's why he can only deceive you and make you destroy yourself. He can't even destroy you. He just deceives you and you carry it out yourself if you believe into it. And I say this because so many people are suffering. When I was growing up, there were so many men and women, black and whites and other, who were able to start businesses, and they weren't trying to go to college. They used their natural-born talent, their gift that God gave them, and they would open up different small businesses in the black community and everywhere, and they made buku money. They didn't have to go spend tens and thousands of dollars going to some university, and they come out in debt. They went and started businesses. They don't push businesses anymore. They don't say, hey, go to trade school or whatever talent that you naturally have. They don't encourage that talent because they don't want you to be free. They want to control you. You can make money doing whatever you want to do. You don't have to go to college. But the folks don't trust the God intellect. They trust what the children of Satan is saying. I want to know, is it easy to overcome the intellect?
No, it's not.
It's not easy?
At all.
Why not?
The intellect has imagination as its fuel, and imagination can be extremely powerful. You can believe just about anything you can imagine. In fact, you hear that in success books, right? Imagine your success and name it and claim it and all that stuff, right? Your intellect creates an image for you or a feeling, and those two are very powerful ways to dominate you.
And so you say it's hard to overcome it.
It's very hard.
But you can overcome it.
Yes, and you
Do
can.
you think it take a long time? Or a while?
Well, actually, it can happen instant by instant. It has to happen that way. You can't with an intellectual attitude, you can't take time and do it. What you have to look at an individual situation and see yourself being misled. And
James, you agree with that?
I don't get how not to go with the intellect, because when we talk about it, I'm just still with it, trying to figure out. I mean,
trying to figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. It makes total sense to me, but it still doesn't seem to change how I go about things, life.
I understand. Do you believe it's possible to overcome the intellect, or is it even necessary?
I have an intellect that always thinking, trying to solve my own problems.
Right.
Yesterday I had an experience with my oldest son. They had a reunion, and I went to it, and he was very drunk, very, very drunk, and he drove from Las Vegas all the way down to San Bernardino, where they were having it. And I seen myself wanting to get involved, to say something to him. And one of my daughters came and she said, let him there, let him fall down, and whatever, you know. And I felt compassion for my son, you know.
What
Usually,
did compassion feel like?
you're sad for him.
So you felt pity for him.
I didn't feel pity. I felt sad for him.
But sadness is not compassion.
Well, then it was the sadness I felt, and
Why did you feel sad for him?
because he was, I guess, because he's my oldest son, and he was making a fool out of himself, you know. And I know I had a part on that. But I just tried to look at it, you know.
How did you have a part in that?
Because I was a bad example. I used to be an alcoholic.
Right. She's
Falling
fine,
down
right?
one.
Yeah.
And so that's how I felt. That
And so you believe that because you were one, he became one?
absolutely, I have a lot of neglect.
Have you apologized to him for that?
Yes, I have.
And then, so why do you still feel sad for him then?
Because he's still going through it and he can't see.
And so, feeling sad for him, is that going to cause him to see?
No.
Then why are you feeling sad? Because having pity for him implies that you think you're better than him.
Oh, I don't think I'm better than him, Jesse.
And so why do you have pity for him?
I don't think I have pity for him.
That's what sadness
I
is.
think it's because he's my son. I feel sad.
But you need to let him go, though. You shouldn't be feeling that way.
Well, I know. I mean, that's the last reunion I'm going to because it's a crazy one, you know. I will not return.
You know, I've been wondering for a while, and I've asked this question. I noticed that when children become adults, wherever the children live, the mothers move there too. Or the mothers make sure the kids move wherever they are in their surrounding world. And I often wonder, why is that? How come the mothers got to always be there? And I realized from experience that the mothers don't ever let go of the children. Even when they are adults, she makes sure, and I'm sure not all, but most, she makes sure she's in their surrounding areas so she can always be the God over them. She want to still make their decisions. She doesn't want to let them suffer. And if they do suffer, she want to get in the midst of it and resolve the problem, whatever it might be, so that they can love her and worship her. And stand in the way and preventing the kids from growing up, going through what they got to go through, and becoming independent men and women. She's always in the way of God, and that adult child growing. It's just like when the kids fall while trying to walk. The father just leave them there, look at them and let them get up and go forward. They don't like, oh baby, my baby, come here, baby. Oh Lord. The father just look at the kid because they know the kid, this is strength. This is how you grow. You fall, you get up and walk. You fall, you get up and walk. And you run and you fall, you know, that's life. But the mother won't let that happen so the kids can see her as God. And the kids end up hating her for it. Because they recognize after a while, the mama has gotten in the way of their growth. And now they're relying on the mama every time they fall. And the thing about it, the mother life is all screwed up, and not like she has the best life, you know?
Right.
And so I say that to say, you need to get away from your kids and don't be feeling sorry. They're adults now. Apologize for the mistakes you made along the way. I'm sorry that I was a weak mother. And then move on and let them cry out to God and not to mama. Y'all, the mother, stop moving around your children. You don't see the fathers trying to move around them.
Well, they never asked me, cry to me. They're just,
Good, but you crying to them. Let them go.
yeah, it's probably that, right?
Right. You see how they're not crying to you, but yet you around them feeling pity and feeling sad, and they don't want that from you.
I understand that, Jesse.
Yeah.
Because I still have a little bit of that in me because I wanted to do something for him. But before I used to do it, now I don't, you know. But I'm even starting to feel that for my niece, the one that calls me all the time drunk.
You feel what for her?
I lied to her to
Oh.
get off of the phone.
Yeah. You're not even honest.
Yeah. So anyway, I
There's
looked
nothing
at
worse than a
that.
dishonest Christian and a mama.
I looked at that, and She hasn't called me back, but when she does, I don't know if I'm ready. You know, I could see that.
Yeah. It's just hard to be free, huh?
It is. It's been for me. It's been very hard.
I know how you can be free. I see people doing this all the time to their children. My son and I, we have a good relationship because I don't feel that way about him. I let him fall, I let him grow, I let him fall. He asks me questions, I answer questions for him. And then once he get past all this, he appreciate the fact that I didn't get in the way. His mother is, she died, so he doesn't have to worry about her anymore. She's out of the way. So now he can finally grow up and become a man, and he's becoming so independent. And he was so weak and pathetic prior to his mother dying because she was always in the way. She was taking the place of God. We need to suffer because in suffering, it causes us to cry out to God. And if somebody else saved us from the suffering, how shall we be saved? Because if a human being saved you, or money or drugs or something saved you, that's only temporary. But if God, when you cry out to God, He come in, He completes you, and you're taking care of the rest of your life. Because no human being was in your way. And if you truly love your kids, adult kids, you'll get out of their way. And with the little kids, you'll watch them in the right way. And our kids are not our own anyway. They don't even belong to us. We're just overseers for a while, temporarily. It's not to be their God. And the problem is you haven't truly repented for the mistakes you made with them. Because if you had truly seen that you were wrong, and you went to your kids and say, look, I was wrong for whatever it is you did, right? Then God would set you free, and in that freedom you would see to let them suffer. And if they want to have a question, they'll ask you, they'll ask for it. But other than that, you let them go through. That's what real love. Love is allowing them to go through what they need to go through in order to become men and women. And then if you're a Christian, you should be honest with them. You don't have to lie. Oh, I had to get off the phone because the mailman's at the door. And the mailman's not at the door. And that shows a lack of courage, and it shows a lack of love.
You know, I never did that, but I'm very suggestible person. And when I hear other people do that, or they do it to me, then I adopt that, and I keep using that too.
Yeah. How many people lie to folks rather than being honest? I gotta go, I'm done with the conversation, or we'll talk later. But you say, oh, I gotta go, I gotta be at work. And you don't even have a job.
Or somebody's in the door.
Somebody's at the door, or the other line is ringing.
I mean, I'm not a person to normally do that, but I probably have.
You're normally up front. And
I'm normally going to tell you the truth. I got to go somewhere, I got to go somewhere.
Right.
So,
that's good.
If I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk to you. So, I mean, I'm just straight up. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'll lie, like the person's like really close to me and it's like a really sensitive subject. Then I probably would lie. But other than that, I mean.
Do you have anger?
Like normally just anger, or
Do you get angry?
no, it's you gotta it's gotta be really bad to make me angry because I'm normally like a comedic person, so it gotta be really bad for me to get mad.
So you can get angry, all depending on the situation.
Yeah, on the situation,
Right.
but again, it has to be really bad because
Were you
I'm
raised
not
by your father and mother?
no single parent, just a mom.
Where's your father?
I don't know.
You don't know where he is?
No,
And why not?
I don't know.
You don't want to know?
Not really, not at this moment. No,
Why not?
I don't need them. I got a great mom.
I'm sorry?
I got a great mom and a great support team. So.
Do you still miss your father sometime on the inside, like to get to know him or talk to him, wonder what happened?
I used to, but not really. Not like now that I'm older, I'm like I done made it this far, so like I don't really need a dad right now.
How far have you made it?
I'm in college.
You say
so.
you're 20, right?
Yeah.
You got a long way to go, man.
Wow.
And so, but is there any part of you that would like to at least talk to him to see why he wasn't there?
Not really. I mean, because if you didn't care to stay, then I mean, I don't even. there's no point, like, to know.
If he didn't care to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened, but I don't really like stuff like that. If he's not here, you're not here. So
When you say he didn't care to stay, why do you think he didn't care to stay?
I don't know. I just said that. I don't know.
When you ask your mother about it, what does she say?
God is my father, which I would definitely agree with.
She said, God is your father?
Yeah.
So when you
Not
say,
like
when you say,
physically,
Mom,
but-
where's Dad, or what happened? She said, no, God is your father. That's your mother answer?
When I was younger, but I've learned to lean on God as my father because he's all of our fathers. So I've used God to replace him, like, as a real father. So
How did you do that?
reading the word, going to church.
Do you love your earthly father?
I don't know. I don't know who he is.
So you don't know if you love him or not, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you've never seen him, right?
I've never seen him. Don't know who he is.
Really? Isn't that horrible? Human beings have fathers and mothers, and they've never seen their fathers. How is it then that, have you ever seen God?
I think I did when I was a kid. I remember I went to church, and this is like a long time ago. I think I was like 6 or 8, and I just started crying in church. And I went to the bathroom, and I think I saw something. I don't remember what he looked like, but I just started crying out of nowhere. And yeah, that's why I knew God was real. I think I saw him. I can't remember, but
Right.
that's how I know he was real. Because
But as a young person, after that experience, you've never seen God, right? You've not seen him since that time.
I felt him. I haven't seen him.
What does he feel like?
Just this is like overpowering love, and just knowing that I'm being taken care of and that someone's watching over me and got my back. So
I highly, highly, highly recommend you find your father. And you don't need him as far as material things, but you need him so that your soul can reconnect with his soul. And then you shall know God. But unless you love your Father on earth, you're never going to be loving God you've never seen. And we all have experiences when we were kids, of course, because we're more innocent as kids. But you really need to find your Father and find out why did he leave, what was going on with him, so you can forgive him for not being there. Then God will forgive you, your whole world will change. What do you think about that?
I mean, most likely I'm not going to do that. So
Why not?
because I shouldn't have to be the one to search. He should be looking for me if he really care.
But you
That's
don't know
how I
what the
feel.
deal is, though. You don't know why he. There's some stuff going on with your mother and him that you haven't heard about.
I don't know.
Well, think about it. You're 20 now. You know, as you get older, it'll start to change. But I urge you, because you seem like really a nice guy, so I want you to have perfect peace. And it's impossible to have perfect peace and resent or not know or reconnect with your earthly father. Because no man can get to the Father unless he go through the Son. And the earthly father represents the sons of God on earth. And until you can love your father, you're never going to be able to love God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you're still 20, so just smoke on it. Yeah, life is going to kick your butt. You'll think about this conversation. Because you do seem like a good guy, so I just want to really keep you on that track. That make sense?
Yeah, it does.
The first question was from R. Grayson 34. He said, aren't we using our intellect when we try to figure this all out? Back to the intellect.
100%. Whenever you're trying to figure out something, you're using your intellect in that fallen state, and it knows nothing. It doesn't have the same mind that God has. Your thoughts, your ways, your ideas are as far away from God as the east is from the west. And that's why we have to, if we want to know God's thoughts, his intellect working through us, we got to let go of this other intellect that we're holding on to. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Burton R.W. asked, how do you overcome the thoughts and feelings?
I was just about to say it. Good question. The way that you overcome this is that you got to realize that you are wrong. You're playing God in your life. And here are examples of knowing that you're playing God. Whenever you make a decision, you're playing God. Whenever you are angry at yourself or your fellow man, you're playing God. Whenever you're worried about anything, you're playing God. Fear is playing God. The love of money, sex, drugs, alcohol, and all that stuff is playing God. And the way you overcome it is to see that you are wrong. And when you can see that you're wrong, God will change it just like that. And the intellect will change at an instant. At the blinking of an eye, it will switch. And then you will be able to see and not go by these thoughts and your imagination. But it's never going to happen until you can admit that you're wrong. You must forgive. Before you enter into the kingdom of heaven, you must forgive. And we have the kingdom of heaven within us and above us. The hardest thing in the world for the fallen state to do is to admit that he or she is wrong. As long as you don't do that, you got to forgive your parents for the mistake they made. You have to just let go, and then God will take over. And believe me, it changes just like that. Right away, you start seeing life different. You stop following your mind, and you listen to the voiceless voice of God. Satan's voice is always talking to you. God's voice revealed to you. And that's what we had prior to the fall. But you got to forgive. Because if you don't forgive, God is not going to forgive you. Forgive me as I forgive others, meaning that as I stop hating, God will forgive me. Yes, sir.
Romford, John asked, what if your father is dead?
Yeah, it's difficult too for a lot of people because it's hard for people to forgive and the parents are still living. But if your father's dead or your mother's dead, and most people hate their mothers, I gotta tell you that. 90% of men and women hate their mothers. It's not the fathers that they hate. They long for their fathers, but they hate their mothers, but they've been convinced that they hate their fathers. And you gotta forgive both parents. That's why God said to parents, do not cause your children to resent. Because when you cause them to resent, they'll turn away from you. And when they turn away from you, they turn away from God. And the way to forgive your father that is already dead, you have to get to know yourself. When you can know thyself, it will help you to understand your parents, and that will cause you to forgive them. And then you can go free. So you got to get to know yourself. And that's how what cause you to forgive your parents.
You said the devil's always talking to you, but God reveals?
Yes.
Could you go into that a little bit?
You know how when you walk outside,
Yep.
you're going to see the sun shining, right?
Yep.
You can see that without a voice telling you.
Yep.
Well, that's how God is when he communicates with his children. He reveals things to you. That's why he said, my children will know me by my voice. All of the children of Satan recognize Satan's voice. Some of them call it God's voice, but it's really Satan's voice. But once you're born again, once you forgive and enter in, you start to see things differently because God is allowing you to see simply by revealing life to you. And it's without words. It's like you walk outside. You don't have to think about the sun shining. You see the sun shine, and he's always dealing with you like that. And now the voice in your head, which is of your father, the devil, that comes from resentment, he's getting further and further away from you. And you want revelation. You don't want the voices in your head. And so I wanted to say to you, Ed, that you can have a mind change just like that. And then once it's changed, now it's being renewed all the time. You're right. We need a renewed mind. And the truth is already written in our heart. And the Bible tells us that. Kingdom of heaven is within. Go within, look within. Once you enter in there, now your mind is being renewed. You don't hate anyone. You speak up. You take care of yourself. You don't hold grudges. You have nothing but love operating through you, which is the love of God. But it happens just like that. So don't let the devil confuse you. That it'll take a long time. Here's what I recommend, is that you have to, at somehow or another, get to know yourself and realize that of yourself you could do nothing, and of yourself you know nothing. When you can lay down your pride and know that you know nothing, things will start to change. But you got to keep your eyes on yourself and not on anyone else. And when people attack you forgive them, they can't see. They don't mean any harm. That's all they know to do. Don't hold it against them. You speak up, but pray for them rather than holding it against them. They are blind and cannot see. I want to encourage you to pray. You know, I pray night and day and during the day because I want to always be present with God. And prayer is the thing that connects you to Him and keeps you to Him. So you have to stay with prayer so that you can start falling away from your passions. We're too into passions. Everything, you know, where's your passion? What are you passionate about? Don't be passionate about anything. Just get up every day, put 1 foot before the other, 1 feet before the other one, and life will work. You'll be amazed at what will happen. And then your friends who are into this intellectual thing, they're really trying to be smart, trying to gain the world, live in a big house. It'll look like they're going faster than you, and you'll look slower, but when you get to where they are, they will have been destroyed already. They're taking medicine, antidepressant pills, the kids' lives are messed up, relationships are not working because you're not on that same path, so don't want to be like anyone. Be you. You're better at being you than being someone else. With your personality, your voice, whatever it might be absolutely you.
Mr. Gold Thoughts asked, did it ever bother you when fellow blacks would call you Coon and Uncle Tom?
They started calling me a coon after God changed my heart and took away my anger by causing me to forgive. And once you forgive, you're not moved by words. Words can no longer hurt you at all. And so when they called me Coon and Uncle Tom and all that, I forgave them because I realized they couldn't see. They're just mad and they can't help it. And I didn't take it personally. I don't care what they call me. Not one iota. So no, it's never bothered me at all. But prior to getting rid of my anger, I was sensitive to words, and words would move me. You can hurt my feelings. You can make me laugh or make me cry or whatever. So I was like that prior to God changing my heart, but not in the last 28 years. So here's what I recommend, that you pray and that you get to know yourself. You're going to be surprised what you find out about yourself. And I want to tell you in advance, you're going to find out that you're no good. And that's the hardest thing for the ego to realize. But once you realize that you're no good, then things will change. Don't get mad about seeing that. Don't be overjoyed about seeing that. Just realize it. Because you're letting go so that God can take over your life. So stay with prayer. Make sure you work and treat people the way you would like to be treated. And know that our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil. We are created in the image of God, who created us. And He created us so that He could create love through us for other people. And as long as we are loving other people, that doesn't mean you let people do you wrong. Don't let them take advantage of you. Just don't resent them. And your world will change.
King of Kings.